This is the new Honda Civic Type R, which in a rapidly changing automotive world is pretty old school. Unlike the rest of the hybrid new Civic range, this is traditional Type R material. It's a front-engined, front-wheel drive hot hatchback with a 325 horsepower 2-litre engine, a limited slip differential and a 6-speed manual gearbox. With a top speed of over 170 miles an hour, it is a proper performance car and, as we'll come to later, has a price to reflect it. The previous Type R was the best big hatch on sale. So how about this one?
Okay, so welcome to the inside of the new Civic Type R on track. It's a slightly damp, greasy track. There is a rev match straight away. I can tell you can turn it off. Well, I've got it on just to see what it's like. Of the different drive modes, I've stuck it into Plus R, which is the angriest of all. It turns up the dampers, turns up the speed of the blipping. I think it firms up the steering weight. Engine sounds a bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Clinical's not the right word. Sounds a bit more synthetic, I think, than the old one. I've asked him if it comes through the speakers, and my driver, who was next to me a minute ago, didn't think so, but he doesn't know. But I will check that, and we'll drop that in a little caption underneath. So that's third gear, loads of torque. That was pulling from low down, and then there's the limiter at sort of 7.2. Very smooth limiter, and you get a beep to tell you to shift up before you get there. It's a really nice gear shift. There's very little lateral movement. That is one of the things that Honda says they have changed between generations of Type R. The steering's really good. That's another thing they say they've changed. They have stiffened up some bits that give response in the steering to let you know what's going on at the road more quickly. I had good steering before. It's got really good steering now. It's quite quick at sort of 2.1 turns lock to lock, but never nervous. There was a time when engineers thought hydraulic power steering was better than electrically assisted steering, and McLaren say still think that's the case, but you can play with it much more, set things up much more over a wider breadth of parameters with electrically assisted steering, and this is really good, I think. Given this is a front-wheel drive car with now 330 horsepower, I can just feel it nibbling. The lip-to-slip diff starts to hook up, you can just feel it nibbling at the understeer, and it just tells you all the way through what it's doing, which is really sensational. It would be lovely if this were dry, then you could really lean on the outer limits of the tyres to see what, just how much lateral grip it makes. But even in these conditions, it is a mighty car. And as you turn and if you trail the brakes in, this front-wheel drive car will start to sort of just edge off into oversteer in a very nicely telegraphed way. The stability control is on here, so actually it will wrap things up before it gets too wild, but the best hot hatchbacks do that. Ford's ST models and RS models have done it, and Renault Sports have done it. There you go, it just wants to nip into oversteer if you turn in on the brakes slightly, but it tells you exactly what it's up to. The best hot hatchbacks do it because it helps get something out of the rear wheels as well as the fronts. It engages them in the cornering process. It is a quick car, this 5.5 seconds to 60 and 170 miles an hour at the top end. Brake feel is really good, steering feel is really good. I know what this car is doing, even though there are damp conditions underfoot. It's pretty early in the day, it's 15 degrees out, something like that. The tyres aren't really very warm, but it's still, despite all of those hindrances, lack of cornering force, lack of temperature, lack of traction, it's still telling me absolutely what it's up to. It sort of sits, I remember when hot hatchbacks seemed to be 30 grand and that was expensive. This is 46. They tell you that there's a PCP which you can have for 500 quid a month. Hot hatchbacks used to be 300 quid a month, didn't they? Anyway, all cars are expensive. This is among them, but it kind of sits halfway up the hot hatchback echelons in the UK. If you take all of them, they tend to go from high 20s up to, for the real premium RS3 stuff, up to sort of 50 something grand. This is sort of in the upper middle tier, I suppose. But the thing about hatchbacks, and one of the things that we talk about at Autocar quite a lot is that fun doesn't necessarily relate to the asking price, right? So you might have more fun in a 30 grand, 35 grand Toyota GR86 than you would in a, well, I don't know, I don't want to be cruel to anything in particular, but you might do in a 100 grand sports car. So don't think that this is a lesser car, say, than an Audi RS3 or a Mercedes A45 on account of the fact that it is a bit cheaper and a bit less powerful. I think you'd have more fun in one of these than most other hot hatchbacks. What hot hatch is more fun than this?
So that's what it's like on track. What is this new Civic Type R like on the road?
Right, so welcome to the Civic Type R on the road. Still slightly crummy conditions, but a good track car doesn't always work on the road, and it doesn't always translate the other way either. There are drive modes in this car: Comfort, Sport, Plus R, and Individual, in which you get to choose what you get. But I'm going to stick it in Comfort because it's a wet day, and I don't think you want the dampers too stiff in the damp, because you want a bit of lean actually onto the outside tyres. It makes the car drive better. It actually gives it more grip and traction. Honda says with the old Type R that you lost some suspension compliance in the move from Civic to Type R, unsurprisingly. I mean, it's a hot hatchback. They tend to be more focused, less comfortable than a regular hatch. They reckon that isn't the case this time around. Now, I haven't driven the conventional hybrid Civic today, but this does feel like a compliant car. Really nice, and yet body control is tight, no question. Steering is lovely. The steering is really lovely. All of that immediacy that you got on circuit is replicated on the road. It's quick without being nervous. It's nicely weighted. It tells you things. I just got a bit of understeered then because it's got quite a lot of torque and the conditions are not great. It doesn't limit the torque in any gear, so if you want it all, hey, you get it all, and you just have to deal with it. But there is not torque steer, but you can feel that limited slip differential hook up. Just feel it through the steering, how much grip and how much traction it has, and you feel that brilliantly. There is not a lot of traction on a road like this, on a day like this. So that's third gear and you can feel it spinning up. That was at 60 kph, 40 miles an hour. But if you drive up to it, I know what it's going to do. That's the great thing. I know exactly what it's going to do. I can feel what it's going to do. Pedal feel is great. Brake pedal feel is great. This is certainly in the UK, I think throughout Europe, the only pure internally combusted Honda you can buy. Now, if you're in the States, that will not be the same for you. Or many other markets, that won't be the same for you. But there's a lot of electrification throughout the Honda range. And what that often means in terms of brake pedal feel is that when you get on the brakes, they try and slow you down through regenerative braking, so the motor becomes a generator, and then at some point in the process the brake discs take over and you start to get friction braking, and that mix of the two doesn't always lend itself to great brake pedal feel. This being a pure internally combusted car, it's got great feel, really great feel. And I'm just going to pop it into sport for a mo and see how much stiffer that makes it, whether it's too harsh for the road. And the answer is that's fine. Actually, it's still really good. Go on, let's stick it in Type R, Plus R mode. See how bad that is. I get a bit more noise, a bit more oomph. Steering is immediately weighted up. And this is the kind of subtlety that you don't notice so much on a circuit, because the levels of acceleration, braking, cornering are much, much higher on a circuit. So these things you don't notice quite as much as you do on the road. It is a bit lumpant and a bit firm over really bad imperfections, but you could drive it in Plus R on the road. Certainly out here in Portugal, where it's kind of smoothish, I suppose. Might be different in the UK. But let's go back into Sport, which I think is probably the one for quickish road driving. It's really good. God, it's so good. I really like this car. I really liked the old one. I really like this one. And Honda says that regardless of what happens in terms of electrification, it is committed to Type R. The founder, Soichiro Honda, used to say, without racing, there is no Honda. And Type R, the R, stands for racing. They like making drivers' cars. So while Peugeot may have given up GTI, Renault may have given up Renault Sport, Ford no longer has an RS in its range in Europe. I mean, they're still committed to performance cars, but not in the same way they used to be. The nice thing is that Honda says, yeah, we are behind the idea of drivers' Hondas. And if they are all as good as this, happy, happy days. This is a terrific hot hatchback. An expensive hot hatchback compared to the previous gen Type R. It's right up with some of the premium priced cars, but hey, they're all expensive these days. Not sure there's a lot you can do about it. It's terrific. It is, I think, the best hot hatchback on sale today. You can find more and a bigger technical explanation too over on autocar.co.uk, where there's a full written review of this. And there's more again, news about it, my views about it in my column and in the news section in Autocar magazine, which is available online on digital subscription. Or in print, as it has been every week since 1895. And a lot of the stuff in it you won't find anywhere else. We won't put it on autocar.co.uk. You have to get the mag to find it. And, I think that's all right. I would recommend it. It's that time of year when a digital subscription might make a fantastic Christmas present for somebody, don't you think? Anyway, that's all available over on our website, autocar.co.uk. Thank you for watching this video. We have other videos. We've got reviews pretty much every week. We got podcasts coming out of our ears. There's one called My Week in Cars, which is me and Steve Cropley talking about our respective columns. There's an Autocar electric one. There's the Autocar business sub-brand. If you're in and around the industry and you want to know more about the car business, look into that. Meantime, thank you for watching this video very much. I appreciate it more than you would know, and I would love it, really love it. Sound like Kevin Keegan. I'd love it if you would give us an up thumb, click the bell icon, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.